growing the sport and all that. As a president of a sports team, I think it's a lot different than it used to be in terms of what you're doing. And probably maybe you don't know what they used to do for presidents, but in the old days it was sort of, if you were the president, if you were the family that owned the team, you were the president, and then your son became the president, et cetera, or your daughter might become the president. I know that still works in a lot of ways around the country. But the president's role is very different than I think it used to be, and is very holistic. I think when most people think about the sport, they think about the product on the field, but there's a lot more that goes into it. And that's what you take. You do everything? Is that basically, or you oversee everything? Is that the role?
Everything that goes well with the club, I'm in charge of.
It sounds like Dave with this podcast. It sounds just like Dave.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at a really, really high level, right, in my role, I oversee all the business operations and all the team operations of the club. Now, obviously, I have, a great number of people that actually do the work. And so, the sporting side, Bruce is in charge of everything on the sporting side. First team, second team, academy. So anything that has to do with kicking the ball ultimately runs into Bruce. And I think my role there is just to work with Bruce and help him navigate, whether it's the league, ownership, and times where the business and the team overlap, and really just do that. Like, I'm not giving Bruce Arena advice on what players to sign or what needs to be done with the team.
So you didn't come up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, good.
Oh, I said so you didn't come up to Bruce and just say, that Matt Turner looks like a pretty good keeper.
No, that would not be me. That would be.
Well, you can take credit for this podcast. Go for it, Brian. We'll stick up for
you. I did. And then on the business side, you're right. Like, it's what I would say is more this than like the what it used to be is really people that were professional sports. I'll say people their whole lives, right?
Yeah.
So maybe they're players, but it was really more about everyone just thought like you build a good team and then people buy tickets and watch on TV, and so it was really professional sports people rather than business people that were ultimately wind up running the teams. And I think over time we figured out that these are major brands, they're big businesses, and it really requires more formal sort of business and marketing training to get it right. And that's really the biggest shift that I think we've seen across all professional sports. And so doing things like fan segmentation analysis, having a lot of business intelligence data and systems to help you navigate your fan base and what to do. We have very specific things now that when we're talking about our fan base, right? There's 8 sort of, and there's more than this, but there's really 8 primary fan segments that we now have that we think about, and each one of those has different needs, different goals, different ways we sell and market to them. So there's a lot behind the scenes that goes into a lot of things that we do here at the club to try to grow the Revs and grow the sport.
Brian, I just have a quick question on the segmentation that you're trying to go after. What percentage would you say European and world market are you trying to attract as the Revolution compared to nationally, locally? If you were to put a percentage on it?
Little to none in terms of international outside this country.
Okay.
The strength of our league today is really our local appeal to fans in our regions, right? That this is your team. This is a team you can watch all the time, that you can come and support, that in theory represents you and really represents the sport of soccer for us. And now who us is, that's where I get into sort of 8 different segments of folks, right? So whether you're a 46-year-old, 47-year-old person who played the sport your whole life and didn't have a league growing up, or you're a 20-year-old who always had soccer part of your life, maybe you're someone who came to this country from another country, so you have a deeper connection with the sport, but we need to get you more connected to our club. There's very different approaches and very different people that love the sport or like sports. I mean, the biggest change that we've seen collectively is that sports fans now actually like soccer, right? And I think when we were growing up, if you like soccer, you were just like this weird person who liked soccer.
Dave reminds us all the time.
Yeah, it's true. But now, your average just sports fan in America likes soccer as well. It's part of the sports landscape, and it's really about turning them on to soccer at the right times and getting them things that interest them, while soccer has these moments that we can sort of get them engaged on.
Do you?
And this,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
Brian. Do you find that in New England there's a little pushback against soccer in terms of people who feel that it's
By you, there is.
well, not just by me, by a lot of other people.
I don't think it's a New England thing.
Okay.
I think it's the same challenge we face in virtually every market we're in as a league, and yeah, I think the trouble is, and we all do this in our lives with everything, right? Which is, I don't like this thing. People turn that into nobody likes this, right? So like, hey, I'm 50 years old. I've never liked soccer, and everyone keeps telling me soccer is going to be popular, and I feel the same way about soccer that I did 30 years ago.
And Brian, if you've heard any of the podcasts that we do, Dave plays that person to a T.
No, I'm not. No, not true. Not true.
He is the person you're exactly talking. If you can get Dave to a Revolution game and like it, that will work across the country.
I like the Revolution. It's a good fan experience. I like it very much, but I like it like a normal person does, not like you guys. And
Brian, if the games are on at 4 a.m, Jim and I are still watching.
Yeah, we're still
don't
watching.
worry about it.
But here's the thing, right? That 50-year-old, what we're saying is, well, 30 years ago, very few 20-year-olds liked soccer. But today, most 20-year-old sports fans have a part of their life that's tuned into soccer, whether it's a national team game or MLS or another league, Liga MX, whatever it is. So, yeah, you're 50 and your view of the sport hasn't changed, but a lot more 20-year-olds like it now, and a lot more 30-year-olds like it now, and a lot more 10-year-olds like it now. And so that's the big shift that we've seen in the sport. I think where it doesn't come across is you still have a lot of folks, whether that's sports media personalities, et cetera, right, decision makers who are older and are still in that sort of, I don't like it, so I don't see it. But when you look at the underlying numbers, the TV rate, I mean, when the men's national team or women's national team plays at the World Cup, the TV ratings are higher than the NBA Finals. They're higher than the Stanley Cup Finals. They're higher than the World Series. It's hard to make the argument that no one's watching soccer when you're seeing results like that for the biggest soccer matches in the United States. So the sport is here in a really big way, and I'm not really that worried about it. I think one thing we've learned over the last few years in our league is the people that you don't have, that you're not going to get, that you're not a good fit for, don't worry about them, and let's focus on the people that we can get, because there's a lot of them. I almost swore on your podcast there, but there's a lot of them.
You can do that.
No,
I've been kicked off this podcast, Brian.
There really is a ton of people like that, and so as a league, we've actually gotten away from what we call the soccer purists, which is sort of this Euro snob fan that just says they don't like our league, because what we've found is it's a really, really insanely small segment of people, and they represent a very small piece of the market, like way smaller than most people would think. And so instead of tuning our league, our branding, players we bring in against that, we've really turned to let's just go after the people in this country who love the sport and just want to see good quality soccer. And so, I think when you look at our Revolution team, we're building it to win games and to put a good, fun, entertaining product on the field. We signed Carlos Gil and Gustavo Bo and Adam Buxa. We didn't do it because people would know their names the second we signed them. We did it because we thought they were really good players that would help us play fun, attractive, winning soccer. And thus far, I'll give Bruce and his group credit. I think they've been right about that. And we've seen the results in TV ratings and ticket sales and just overall excitement around this team, not just with hardcore soccer fans, but with sports fans throughout New England. And that's been, above all else, I think, for our league, that epiphany of hey, forget about big names and trying to get these people that we're never going to get anyway. Let's start building our league. Let's put great soccer, because the sport is the most popular sport in the world for a reason. And now that so many Americans see it, we got to give them better soccer and more fun, entertaining soccer. And that's been the real goal over the last, whatever you want to call it, 5 to 10 years.
I want to get back to Bruce Arena in a minute. By the way, Bruce Arena, great get for the franchise. In terms of do you operate with a 10-year plan, 5-year plan, or just priorities day to day? It
depends on really what topic you're talking about, right? There's some things that are probably in that 5 to 10 year window.
Mm-hmm.
Other things that are in the 3 to 5 window, and other things that are the this year, next year window. So yeah, I mean, it's a hard question to answer because it depends if you're talking about a ticket sales initiative, an infrastructure initiative, or team player initiative, right? So when you think about something like the academy, you're in that 5 to 10 year time horizon of getting returns from your academy. Second team is more of that 3 to 5 year time horizon, right? And then some of the first year initiatives are obviously a lot tighter. So it just depends on the initiative. We kind of think about different things in different scales.
Is COVID? I mean, COVID's had to affect your planning.
Well, it's interesting. It's more impactful in the short term than the long term, right? So our ticket sales plans changed very dramatically with COVID. But, for us, we built our academy, we built this training center, we built our second team up. And so when COVID hit, we didn't cut any of that programming. We had to adjust the actual programming, but we didn't say, this financially doesn't make any sense right now because, well, it's making sense for years from now when this pays dividends, right? So, we got a 16-year-old kid, Noel Buck, who's now playing for the first team. He would have been in the academy at that time, right?
Yeah.
And he played for the second team a lot last year. So I do think when you have COVID, it's making major changes to some of the very, very short-term things, but it doesn't change, for instance, long-term things. So you may have a quick edit on something that you were thinking of doing because of that, but I think all your long-term strategic planning, stays pretty true.
Brian, this is Paul. I just got out of my timeout. So I want to ask you as a fan or president, and also if you could maybe chime in about what the players think. If you had a choice, is the MLS Cup the next season better than a CONCACAF or vice versa? Like for me, I want the Cup because we've been there 4 or 5 times. But how about for you?
Well, I think from a club perspective, every trophy is really important. And I know it's going to sound like a political answer, but I don't think one impacts the other. Meaning, right now, our focus is going to be on winning CONCACAF Champions League and winning as many regular season games as we can. Mm-hmm. And as we get to the playoff run, then obviously MLS Cup takes full priority. Last year, fortunately for us, we were able to kind of get the Shield locked up relatively early and allowed us to try to set up our team for the playoffs. And it was obviously a tough window for us with the break that we had to go into. But, you're really trying to do it all. I think emotionally for our club, where we're at, by far MLS Cup for me is the most important piece. I mean, we haven't had it. We desperately want it. We came close so many times. But, when you look at different clubs, I'm sure if you ask Manchester City what their priority is, my guess is they would say Champions League, right? Because they've won the Premier League enough times, they haven't won Champions League yet. So I do think those things can shift depending on where your club is in its history and what you have or haven't accomplished recently. But, that MLS Cup is certainly the big one that we're really looking forward to.
Let me just back up to this question because, as I said, I think getting Bruce Arena as the to head up your player development side and the coaching side and the talent side, really, really good get for the Revolution. And I see him on the side, but I see him on the sideline. He seems like kind of a dour guy to me. So here's my question. I know you share a facility. If Bruce Arena and Bill Belichick are in the same room together, does it start raining?
Does it start raining? I don't know Bill that well at all. I know, I've gotten to know Bruce, but I think some of these things are probably similar, right, with folks like them, which is Bruce really, really, really wants to win. And so at times, I know how he can come across with people, but he's just so focused on that he doesn't have a lot of patience or tolerance for things that get in the way of that. Mm-hmm. And it sounds simple, right? But I think for all of us in life, right, you get distracted by certain things like, hey, I want to, it's like the whole thing, like I want to lose weight, right? We all want to lose weight. And then you have dessert the next night because you get distracted by how good the damn dessert is. So you eat it. And I think guys like Bruce are just, they get so focused on winning that when things go wrong, when something's not being executed the right way, they're not happy people. And in some ways they don't care. Like they want it right and they want it to get done the way it needs to get done to ensure success. So, I have obviously a ton of respect for Bruce, but he just has this focus and this passion on winning, and it's been very